me tell you something that nobody on financial television will ever say to you. And most people in the modern world are not poor because they do not earn enough money. They are poor because something invisible is eating their money, silently, continuously, every single day, like a leak in the hull of a ship so small you cannot see it, but large enough to sink you if you never find it. I have spent over 70 years studying the behavior of money, not the mathematics of it, not the spreadsheets, the behavior, the psychology, the way money flows towards certain people and away from others, and how that movement is almost never random. What I have found is this: there are 5 forces operating in the modern economy that are specifically designed, structurally positioned, and psychologically engineered to extract wealth from ordinary people before it ever has the chance to compound. I call these the 5 silent wealth killers. They are silent because they do not announce themselves. They do not come with warning labels. They come dressed as comfort. They come dressed as success. They come dressed as the perfectly normal way to live a modern life. And in 2026, they are more powerful than they have ever been in human history. Before we begin, I want to make something clear. This is not a video about cutting your coffee. I am not going to tell you to stop eating out or cancel your streaming service. Those are symptoms. I want to talk about the disease. I want to talk about the root systems underneath the ground that keep ordinary people financially trapped, no matter how hard they work, no matter how many promotions they get, no matter how many motivational videos they watch. If you want to understand where your money is actually going, you need to stop looking at your bank statement and start looking at the architecture of the world around you, because that architecture was not designed for your benefit. Let us begin with the first silent killer. I call this one the lifestyle flood. Killer number 1, the lifestyle flood. There is a concept in engineering called structural creep. It describes what happens to a building when pressure is applied slowly over a very long period of time. If you hit a steel beam with a sledgehammer, the beam resists. It holds the sudden forces absorbed and rejected. But if you apply a much smaller force continuously, day after day, year after year, something different happens. The steel does not resist. It bends almost imperceptibly at first. 1 millimeter this year, 2 millimeters next year, and then one day, without warning, the beam fails, not because of any single dramatic event, because of the slow, invisible accumulation of pressure over time. This is exactly how lifestyle inflation destroys wealth. Most people think the wealth trap is about not earning enough. They think if they could just get one more raise, one more promotion, one more percentage point on their salary, they would finally start building wealth. But here is what the data actually shows. In country after country, across every income bracket, most people find that no matter how much their income increases, their savings rate stays essentially flat. Sometimes it actually gets worse. Why? Because of a psychological law so fundamental to human behavior that economists have given it a name: hedonic adaptation. It means this: whatever level of comfort you are currently experiencing, your brain very quickly decides that this level is normal. It stops registering as luxury. It stops registering as something to be grateful for. It simply becomes the floor. And then your brain begins looking for the next level up. When you are earning $2,000 a month, a $2,000 apartment seems impossible. When you are earning $4,000 a month, a $2,000 apartment seems reasonable. When you are earning $8,000 a month, a $2,000 apartment seems like something you would never accept. Not because you need more space, not because your life has changed, but because your brain has recalibrated its definition of acceptable. This recalibration is relentless. It never stops. And the modern economy has learned to exploit it with terrifying precision. Let me tell you what the modern lifestyle machine actually looks like. You get a raise. The first thing that happens almost automatically is that you upgrade something. Maybe it is the car. Maybe it is the apartment. Maybe it is the restaurants you frequent or the clothes you buy. The upgrade feels earned. It feels deserved. It feels like the natural reward for working hard and moving up, so you accept it. You settle into the new level, and within 6 months, the new level feels completely normal. It is no longer a luxury. It is just your life. But Hossein, now here is where the trap closes. Your expenses have risen to match your income. Your savings rate has not improved. In fact, it may have decreased, because the upgraded apartment requires upgraded furniture, the upgraded car requires upgraded insurance, and the upgraded social circle requires upgraded restaurants. You are running faster on the treadmill than before, but you are still standing in exactly the same place. Charlie Munger once said something I have never forgotten. He said, "It is not the big expenses that get you." Everyone sees those coming and plans for them. It is the small upgrades, the ones that feel completely rational, the ones that you barely even register as decisions. It is the gym membership that quietly doubles in price and you say nothing because the new towels are nicer. It is the food delivery service that you started using during the pandemic and never stopped. It is the business class seat on a flight that you justified once and now cannot imagine flying without. These are not extravagances. That is the point. They do not feel like extravagances. They feel like the minimum acceptable standard of a successful person. And that feeling, that completely manufactured sense of what is normal, is the mechanism by which the lifestyle flood silently drowns your future. Now, here is the number that should stop you cold. The average working professional in a developed economy will receive somewhere between 12 and 20 salary increases over the course of their career. If every single one of those raises is fully absorbed by lifestyle inflation, which is exactly what happens to the overwhelming majority of people, you retire with essentially the same savings rate you had when you started. You worked 40 years, you became more productive, you became more valuable, you received raise after raise, and you end up with almost nothing because every raise was immediately converted into a higher floor of normalcy. Compound interest is the most powerful force in finance, but lifestyle inflation is its mirror image, where compound interest multiplies your wealth with every passing year. Lifestyle inflation multiplies your expenses with every passing raise, and if your expenses grow at the same rate as your income, the compounding machine never turns on. You never build the critical mass. You never reach escape velocity. So how do you break this pattern? There is only one mechanism that works. You have to institutionalize the gap before the money arrives, before you see it, before you feel it, before your brain has the chance to decide what normal looks like at this new income level. You have to lock it away. You have to automate the transfer to a savings or investment account before your checking account ever sees the new number. This is what I mean when I say you have to build a system. Willpower fails. Intention fails. The human brain is simply not equipped to resist hedonic adaptation through discipline alone. You cannot decide every month to live below your means. You have to make it automatic, make it invisible, make it so that your expenses never see the raise. If you receive a 5% raise this year and you automatically redirect the entire 5% into an investment account before you update your budget, your lifestyle never adjusts. Your brain never recalibrates. The flood never comes in. Over 20 years, the difference between redirecting every raise and spending every raise is not a matter of a few $1,000s. It is a matter of millions. The lifestyle flood is silent. You will not feel it happening. You will feel yourself getting more comfortable, more successful, more settled. That feeling of comfort is the flood. The moment you understand that, everything changes. Killer number 2, the debt architecture. I want you to imagine 2 identical houses on the same street. They look exactly the same from the outside. Same square footage, same garden, same roof. But inside, the structure is completely different. One house was built on solid ground, with a foundation sunk deep into bedrock. The other house was built on unstable soil, with shallow roots. You cannot see the difference from the street. Both houses look fine. Both families look like they are living the same life, but underground the physics are completely different. The second house is slowly, imperceptibly sinking. Every year, by fractions of a millimeter, the foundation shifts. The walls develop tiny cracks, the doors start sticking, and one day, after a heavy storm, the house does not survive. Most people in the modern economy are living in the second house, and most of them have no idea. Here is the reality of debt in 2026. We live in a society that has completely normalized borrowed money as a fundamental tool of daily life, not just for major purchases, not just for houses and cars, which used to be the only context where debt was considered acceptable, for everything, for furniture, for vacations, for groceries, for experiences, for status. We have built an entire consumer architecture on the premise that you can have it now and pay for it later, and that this is simply how modern life works. This normalization is one of the most effective wealth destruction mechanisms ever engineered. Let me explain the mathematics of debt in a way that most people never think about. When you carry a balance on a credit card at 20% annual interest, every dollar you spend is not costing you $1. It is costing you infinitely more than $1, because that dollar will carry interest for months or years before it is fully repaid. But here is the part that destroys people. That same 20% that the bank is charging you is exactly the same rate that compound interest would be earning for you if the money were invested instead. Think about what that means. Debt and investment are mirror images of each other. One is compounding in your favor. One is compounding against you. And in the modern economy, tens of millions of people are running both machines at the same time. They have a retirement account earning 7 or 8% annually. And they have credit card debt costing them 20 to 25% annually. The net result is that the debt machine is eating the investment machine alive. The interest is consuming the compounding. The system is running backwards, and it is doing so silently. Most people do not think about their debt as a structural feature of their life. They think of it as a series of individual decisions. The car loan was a decision. The credit card balance was a decision. The buy now, pay later purchase on the new phone was a decision. Each one felt manageable. Each one had a monthly payment that seemed acceptable relative to their income. But what people fail to do is add up the total cost of servicing all that debt simultaneously and look at it as a single number, as a single machine running in the background of their financial life every single day. If you are paying $400 a month on a car loan, $300 a month servicing credit card debt, $200 a month on a personal loan, and various buy now, pay later installments totaling another $150, you are not making 4 individual manageable payments. You are running a machine that costs you over $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, $300,000 over 25 years of your working life, just to service debt, not to pay it off, just to service it. $300,000 that never builds a single asset, $300,000 that never compounds, $300,000 that does not come from luxuries or irresponsible spending. It comes from the quiet, normalized, perfectly acceptable monthly payments that look completely reasonable in isolation, but are catastrophic in aggregate. Now I want to introduce a concept I call the debt shadow. The debt shadow is the total opportunity cost of your current debt load. It is not just the interest you are paying. It is the investment returns you are not earning, because that capital is being consumed by interest payments instead. It is the risk tolerance you do not have, because your monthly obligations are too high to allow you to take a calculated risk on a business or an investment opportunity. It is the negotiating power you give up in your career because you cannot afford to walk away from a bad situation. The debt shadow follows you everywhere, and most people cannot see it because they only look at individual balances, never at the aggregate cost of the entire architecture. There is a famous paradox in behavioral economics called the minimum payment trap. Researchers have found that when people see a minimum payment listed on a credit card statement, that number actually anchors their behavior. People who see a minimum payment of $50 are more likely to pay exactly $50, even if they could afford to pay $500, because the minimum payment signals to the brain that $50 is the appropriate response to this bill. The credit card companies know this. They built their entire business model on it. In 2026, this trap has been extended across every category of spending. Every furniture store, every electronics retailer, every travel website now offers financing. 0% interest for 12 months, as low as $49 a month. Own it today, pay for it over time. The marketing language is always the same. It is always framed as an opportunity, as an enhancement, as a smarter way to manage your cash flow. It is never framed as what it actually is. A mechanism for extracting future wealth from you in exchange for present comfort. To escape the debt architecture, you need to do 2 things simultaneously. First, you need to stop adding to the architecture, not because debt is morally wrong, but because it is mathematically destructive. Every new debt obligation is a new drain on your future self. Every minimum payment is a tax on your ability to build wealth. Second, you need to eliminate the highest interest obligations as aggressively as possible in sequence, using every available surplus dollar until the architecture is gone. The moment your monthly debt service goes to 0, something profound happens. That money, that machine that was running against you stops. And you have a choice about what to do with it. You can let the lifestyle flood absorb it, and you end up exactly where you started, or you can redirect it into an investment machine that runs in your favor, and you begin to build actual wealth. The difference between a person whose monthly cash flow is consumed by debt service and a person whose monthly cash flow is free of debt service is not a difference in income. It is a difference in architecture. And architecture, once you understand it, can be redesigned. Killer number 3, the attention economy tax. In 1971, Herbert Simon, one of the greatest economists and cognitive scientists of the 20th century, made a prediction that most people at the time did not fully understand. He said that a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. He said that information consumes the attention of those who receive it, and that a surfeit of information must inevitably create a scarcity of the thing that information consumes. He said this before the internet existed, before the smartphone, before the algorithm. If he could see 2026, I believe he would say that his prediction underestimated the problem by several orders of magnitude. Here is a truth that nobody in the financial industry talks about, because it is uncomfortable and because it does not fit neatly into a spreadsheet. Your most valuable economic asset is not your money. It is not your skills. It is not even your time in the raw sense of hours available. Your most valuable economic asset is your focused cognitive attention, your ability to think clearly, strategically, and deeply about your financial life without distraction. And in 2026, that asset is under the most sustained, sophisticated, and well-funded attack in human history. Let me explain what I mean by the attention economy tax. Every business that depends on advertising revenue, which is to say almost every digital platform that touches your daily life, makes more money when you are more distracted, more anxious, more reactive, and more emotionally activated. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is simply the business model. Engagement is measured in attention. Attention is sold to advertisers. The more time your eyes spend on the platform, the more the platform earns. And the most effective mechanism for keeping eyes on a platform is not satisfaction. It is anxiety. It is outrage. It is the variable reward loop of social comparison. The platforms are not designed to make you feel good. They are designed to keep you coming back. And the mechanism by which they keep you coming back is the systematic exploitation of your brain's threat detection systems. Your brain evolved over millions of years to pay close attention to threats, to scan the environment, to notice when someone else in the group had more resources, more status, more safety. These instincts kept your ancestors alive in a genuinely threatening environment. In 2026, those exact same instincts are being harvested 24 hours a day by platforms that serve you an infinite stream of social comparisons, alarming headlines, and status signals specifically designed to trigger them. The result is what I call chronic financial anxiety fog, a state in which your cognitive bandwidth is so consumed by low-grade, constant stimulation that you become incapable of the deep, patient, strategic thinking that wealth building requires. Think about what building wealth actually demands of a person. It demands that you be able to sit quietly and think about where you will be in 20 years. It demands that you be able to resist the immediate gratification of a purchase in favor of the distant, invisible reward of compound growth. It demands that you tolerate boredom, that you endure the long, flat part of the compounding curve without panicking or abandoning your strategy. It demands that you think clearly about risk, about probability, about your own behavioral tendencies. Now think about what the attention economy demands of you. It demands the opposite. It rewards reaction over reflection. It rewards speed over patience. It rewards emotional arousal over calm analysis. It is designed to make you feel like if you are not responding, not engaging, not staying current with the constant stream of new information, you are missing something important. It manufactures urgency where none exists. There is a direct, measurable, and catastrophic connection between the amount of time a person spends in the attention economy and the quality of their financial decision-making. People who spend 3 or 4 hours a day on social media platforms, on news feeds, on reactive digital environments are not just wasting time, they are degrading the neurological infrastructure they need to build wealth. They are training their brains to be reactive, impatient, and short-termist. And those are exactly the opposite of the characteristics required for financial success. I want to tell you something about how I spend my time because I think it illustrates this point more clearly than any statistic. I read for 6 to 8 hours every day. I have done this for most of my adult life. I read annual reports. I read books about history, about human nature, about industries I do not yet understand. I read things that are slow, things that require concentration, things that do not serve up their insights immediately but reward sustained attention over hours. People find this extraordinary. They think it is a luxury available only to someone of my position and wealth, but they have it backwards. The reading is not a luxury I can afford because I am wealthy. The capacity for deep focused attention that the reading builds is one of the primary reasons I became wealthy. The compounding does not just happen in the bank account, it happens in the mind first. In 2026, the attention economy has made this kind of focused, patient thinking a form of radical countercultural resistance. When you choose to close the apps and sit quietly with a difficult idea for an hour, you are doing something genuinely unusual. You are doing something the entire economic architecture of the digital world is designed to prevent, and you are building a cognitive asset that the vast majority of your competitors do not have. The attention economy tax is not a line item you will see on any statement, but it is real, and it is enormous. It is paid in distorted financial decisions made in a state of cognitive fog. It is paid in impatience during market corrections that should be opportunities. It is paid in status spending triggered by social comparison. It is paid in the inability to sit with the boredom of a long-term strategy without abandoning it for something more immediately stimulating. To reduce this tax, you do not need to become a hermit. You do not need to throw away your phone. What you need is to become radically intentional about what you allow inside your cognitive architecture. Every hour of deep attention you protect is an hour of real wealth-building capacity. Every reactive hour you trade away to a platform is an hour of that capacity destroyed. Build the buffer, not just in your bank account, but in your attention. Protect the quiet. Because in 2026, quiet is where the wealth is built and noise is where it is destroyed. Killer number 4, the wrong room. There is a law in physics called thermal equilibrium. It states that when two objects of different temperatures come into contact, heat flows from the hotter object to the cooler one until both objects reach the same temperature. The process is not negotiated. It is not influenced by the intentions of either object. It simply happens automatically, driven by the fundamental laws of thermodynamics. Wow. I want you to understand something about human beings. We are not different from this law. We are subject to our own version of it. When you place a person in sustained contact with a group, what happens is not random. The values, the expectations, the behavioral norms, the vocabulary, the sense of what is possible and what is acceptable, all of these things flow toward equilibrium. The group does not have to try to influence the individual. The individual does not have to be weak or impressionable. The process is automatic. It is driven by something in our neurological architecture so fundamental that no amount of willpower or individual intention can fully override it. This is the most powerful and the most dangerous force in personal finance, not because it is malicious, but because it is invisible and because it operates on the part of your psychology that you have the least conscious access to. I have watched brilliant, motivated, genuinely capable people fail financially for their entire lives while being completely unable to explain why. They read the right books, they understood the theory, they knew what they should be doing, but something kept pulling them back. Something kept their behavior anchored to a level that their aspirations had long since left behind. When I looked closely at their lives, the answer was always the same. It was the room they were in. The group of people you spend your daily life surrounded by sets the ceiling on what feels psychologically normal for you, not the ceiling on what you intellectually believe is possible, the ceiling on what feels normal. And most people live at the level of what feels normal, not the level of what they believe is possible, because believing and feeling are governed by different systems in the brain, and in a conflict between them, feeling almost always wins. If you spend most of your time around people for whom not saving is normal, not investing is normal, carrying debt is normal,